Have you ever felt powerless in a fight? The key to winning isn't just about throwing punches, but also mastering your defense. If you're in a fight, one punch could end it all. In this video, I'm going to be covering many different aspects of defense, so stick around to the end because skipping any part of the video could be the difference between you winning or losing your next fight. At the end of the video, I will show you an exercise that you can do all alone to master your head movement. First of all, I'm going to be covering your guard. I would generally recommend everyone starting out to start with a high guard where you place your fingers on your eyebrows and you keep your hands tucked in to your body. What's really important here is that your hands or arms is in one with your body and you don't want to keep them out and leave space. If you leave space between your hand and your body, you're just creating openings for your opponent to hit you. With this guard you can take a lot more hits because you're all covered up. But keeping your hands up all the time can be really tiring for the shoulders. Now this depends if it is a real fight or something like a boxing or kickboxing match. Especially if you're wearing gloves, then you can get really tired by holding your hands up all the time. You only need to keep your hands up when you're actually in range of your opponent. When you're walking towards your opponent, you don't need to keep your hands all the way up, but you can keep them down here and just relax your hands. If you have tried boxing, you know this, that keeping your hands up all the time and punching really tires out your shoulders. Blocking and parrying punches is a big part of fighting. And what you want to do with your guard up, you want to look through the guard and you want to try to read your opponent. And what's really important is that when your opponent is throwing a punch, you don't want to move your guard and lift it away to block it. This is a big common beginner mistake that I see all the time. People try to block with their hands like this, like it's a shield. But if you come across just even a slightly bit more experienced fighter than a beginner, then they will see you doing this and they will feint you out and come around. You always want to keep your hands close. If a punch lands on your elbow and you block it here or here, it doesn't really affect you. Maybe it can hurt a little bit if they hit you here and you hit yourself in the face, but that's a lot better than actually taking a punch straight to the face. Parrying punches is really common and something you should do every now and then. What I would recommend you doing is parrying with your backhand. You stand like this and a punch comes and you can step a bit back and you can parry the punch and just stop it in its track or shift its movement. So if a punch comes straight towards you, you can just slightly tap it with your backhand and then you can come back with a counter. The reason why you want to do this with your rear hand and not your front hand is that your rear hand is much closer to your body. So if your opponent is feinting a punch, maybe you try to parry it by reaction, but this movement does nothing, it leaves no openings. But if you try to do this with your lead hand and you try to come out here and parry a punch, then you leave a lot more room to get hit. But you may say, I have seen people in the UFC, for example Conor McGregor, using his lead hand to control his opponent's hands. And of course, he can do it because he knows the rules. When you know the rules in fighting, that's when you can start breaking the rules. But first, learn the rules and do things by the book. And something I forgot to mention is that when you parry with your rear hand, your lead hand is right there to counter. Now keeping your hands up is really important in fighting, of course, but you can't just block and take every punches because eventually a punch will get through and land. So this is where slipping and rolling comes in. Now before we start, I am covering just general fighting. I know it's big difference between boxing, kickboxing and Muay Thai, so you have to take this into account. For example, you don't want to slip low down in Muay Thai or maybe in a street fight because then you're really accessible to be hit by a knee. But in boxing, if you see Mayweather or Canelo, you can stay as low to the ground as you want. So remember to take that into account. Now I'm going to teach you how to actually slip punches. Now first I'm going to be covering this while standing still. So if you want to slip this way, you want to bring the opposite shoulder down here. The same with the other way. You want to slip that way, you bring this shoulder down here. Now it's important to not overslip because then it takes a lot longer for you to come back and counter. You want to slip just enough so a fist doesn't hit you. This means if you're here, you only need to slip down here because then you're right back with a counter. Now you may ask, but which way do I actually slip? You want to slip to the outside of your opponent's punch. If I throw a jab here, my opponent would want to slip on the outside. If someone slips this way, they are right in the range of my cross. So if I come in with a jab, you want to slip on this side, and then all this is open to be attacked. Now something you really want to be careful about is not double slipping. You don't want to slip one way and then slip again back the other way. Because if you slip this punch and you slip here, then the opponent slips again, then they're gonna walk straight into a punch. But if you want to slip one way and then go the other way, then you want to slip and roll under the punch. Now it's almost impossible to actually read fast punches, but you want to do this by instinct. If you slip one way and you want to go the other way, you want to just practice a lot. Instinct, slip this way, then you have to roll to get to the other side. Now as I said, I'm going to be showing you an exercise at the end of the video where you can practice and master exactly this. Okay, now that you know the basics of slipping while standing still, with your shoulder coming down here and rolling under here, it all comes from the hips. You want to twist down here and you want to always keep your center of balance. It's a straight line here, and you don't want to slip here where you're off balance, but you want to slip down here, so my center of gravity is always in a straight line. I always have balance and I don't lose balance because I'm bending my knees and I'm shifting my weight with my feet and my upper body to always have balance. So if I get in a difficult position, for example, if I come down here and I see a punch, I can easily step back, I can easily roll under because I always have balance. It's all in the back foot. You just bend your knee and you get down. You bend your back knee and you get down. If you want to, I will cover balance a lot more in the future. But as for now, I'm going to be teaching you how to slip actually towards your opponent. Because if you stand still like this and just slip a punch, then it's impossible to counter. Your opponent won't be there after a punch. So let's start with slipping this way. Slipping to my left. As you can see, I have my lead foot as the left foot. The first thing I'm thinking about, and that is actually just getting my shoulder down here. So I get down here and I've slipped the punch. Now right after I'm started to move my shoulder down here, it comes number 2, which is to take a step in. You want to do this almost at the same time, but you want to first just slip the punch because you don't want to get hit. And then you want to step. You don't want to go slip out, but you want to slip a bit diagonally out, because here you have a lot of room, a lot of openings to counter your opponent. Now what's a bit more difficult is slipping the other way, because here no leg is here to catch you. Now I'm gonna show you 2 ways to slip this way and actually coming closer to your opponent. There's way number 1, which is to just slip while stepping forward. You push from the rear leg forward, take a step with the lead leg, and you slip down here. But now you're more in front of your opponent, where you can roll and get some punches in. But if you want to come to the side, you want to actually step this way while slipping. Almost throw your shoulder to slip the punch first, this way, and then you're catching yourself with the leg. Now as you can see, while I'm doing this, I do have a couple of options. One is when I'm doing this, is that you come in with your left hand here. This is a punch that I don't personally like, because when slipping, I don't want to remove my hand from guarding myself. I want to keep my hand here. This is just my personal preference, but I like to just keep my hand here and slip and use my right hand to come with an uppercut, or number 2, which you can do a kind of Mike Tyson switch. You just jump over here, and while your opponent is here, now he's completely open to be countered. You stand here, you slip, you step around, and you come here. You can go low, high, it doesn't really matter. You hit where your opponent is open. You can also do it here. You can switch to this way, and you can come inwards here. You stand here, you slip, twist, hit. Now in order to actually slip a punch, you have to look at your opponent's shoulders and see when the punch is coming. Unless you have really good reaction, it's really difficult to slip a punch while it's getting close to you. The closer the punches get, the harder it is to slip, and it's easy to just freeze up and forget everything. So what you want to do, as I said, look at your opponent's shoulders, and when you see his shoulder is moving, he's going to throw a punch, that's when you just want to automatically slip. You don't actually have to see the punch coming. If you watch a boxing match, you see that they are slipping almost all the time. So if you just sometimes slip and a punch is not coming, it's no harm. You just get back in stance and you keep going. Now this is more boxing practice. Actually slipping in a street fight, for example, may not be the smartest, because as I said a bit earlier, slipping down, especially too far down, will get met by a lot of knees. A lot of people just grabbing you and kneeing you in the face. So if it's not a planned fight and you're not wearing gloves, then if you're gonna slip, I would recommend keeping your head up high, stay tall, and then you can still slip, but don't go far down. This also goes for kickboxing and Muay Thai. Now I'm going to be covering the last part and the easiest way to dodge a punch, which is to simply taking a step back. Now what you want to do here, you want to step back with your back foot and you want to follow with your lead foot. So this is a great way to dodge a punch. The big drawback about this, if you only step back to dodge a punch, it's really hard to counter. You can of course step back and come straight in. It's really unlikely that you're gonna actually manage to hit your opponent, because you are stepping further out of range, which makes it really difficult to counter. So if someone jabs at you, you can step back, you do it again, you can step back, and then the third time a punch is coming, that's when you can surprise them by actually slipping in and countering. So you have to mix and match between everything I've talked about in this video, but now I'm going to show you an exercise so you can actually master your head movement all alone. So here is the exercise. All you need is a string attached to something above and a heavy object that goes back and forth. Now there's a lot of things you can do with this exercise. You can just swing the ball and you can slip back and forth. And don't look at the ball, but look straight forward at where your opponent is gonna be. So you can slip, you can roll under the ball. And remember that you don't need to roll too far down and you don't need to slip all the way over here. You just need to barely slip the ball. And then you can, for example, you can slip here and then you can twist and counter, and then you can maybe just block the ball and come with a counter punch. You can just regularly slip and throw some punches. Now if you want to see how I practice using this tennis ball, then I actually made a full-length video of me doing different slips, rolls and everything. So if you want to take some inspiration and see how I do it, then check out this video right here. Now depending on when you're watching this video, part 3 is either in the making or already posted. If it is already posted, I will leave a video right here. But if it's not posted, then make sure you're following so you don't miss it. Like and follow for more.